Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. It seems that Doomcock's videos has created quite a stir and stirred up a hornet's nest in the movie press, as it's promoted something of a backlash against the article, as I found this from a site called Balls, whatever that means. It was written by some guy called Abby Apfel, who obviously doesn't like the idea of the trilogy being remade. And he writes, let's talk about the crazy rumours Disney is going to undo the Star Wars trilogy. The Star Wars sequel trilogy is not everyone's cup of tea, you can say that again. While it has its fans, in single figures probably, especially the first two movies, it's also grown a massive anti-fan base. At least he's got that right. This week, while rumours started circulating that Disney could take the drastic step to decanonize the sequels and making the dreams of thousands of enraged internet fans come true, too right. Today, let's look at these rumours, how they say it will happen if it's possible. Now comes the backlash and the slagging off. There's Doomcock's video. He goes on about these rather insane rumours. And he goes on, the rumours that Overlord has stirred up, has shared a couple of parts. The first is that some kind of civil war is going on in Lucasfilm between a faction that seems to be headed by Kathleen Kennedy. Boo! Represent a new Star Wars. No, she just represents identity politics and gender politics. And one headed by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, representing the classic Star Wars and the Lucas version of the franchise, which it should be. According to these rumours, Kennedy faction like, or at least are invested in keeping the sequels around. Apparently the sequels are her legacy, while the Filoni Favreau groups dislike the movies and wants to put them decanonized. And then it goes on about the Veil of the Force. It's possible this room was actually the room in the Death Star 2. Well, it can't be the room in the Death Star 2 because the Death Star 2 was vaporized at the end of Return of the Jedi, where Mary Sue found the Sith Wayfinder, a famous relevant blah blah blah. I didn't see it, so I can't comment on that. With that change, the sequels no longer happen. They become sort of what-if Legends event and are taken out of the primary timeline. They shouldn't have been put in the primary timeline in the beginning. They are no longer canon, and canon Star Wars can be redone without all the things people hated in the sequels. Good. And then he starts to attack the Overlord, Doomcock, and explain in his way why this won't happen. Okay, so these are the rumours. Let's take a breath and agree with all this. This might be a dream come true for some people. A lot of people, not just some people. It's not going to happen. Then comes the official shill attack. First off, the theory doesn't really make any sense using Veil of the Force to kill Palpatine. Palpatine got killed at the end of Return of the Jedi and prevent the event of the sequels taking place. So the mechanics described seem questionable, but sure Lucasfilm could make something to make it happen. They still won't. How does he know? He's not an insider, he's just a movie journalist. While they did move the old expanded universe to the non-canon Legends, doing that raised a ton of questions that has created a ton of issues for fans, writers and merchandisers. Well, merchandisers, I suspect, true, because a lot of the merchandise is all geared towards the sequels, even though none of it is selling. Doing again so quickly would only compound these issues. No, it wouldn't. It'd just clear the decks. It would also undo basically all meaning of canon for Star Wars. No, it wouldn't. It would just put Star Wars back in its proper context. The correct storyline that started with The Phantom Menace. The expanding universe moved with a clean cut when the company was changing hands. No, it wasn't. George didn't know they were going to stab him in the back. Doing this to the sequel would effectively mean that anytime fans weren't happy with the product, it could become non-canon nonsense. The fans are just not happy with the awful mess that the trilogy, the Disney trilogy, turned out to be. And then he goes on, also, what about the rest of the new canon? That's not just the movies. Would all the new post-Return of the Jedi novels and comics and games be decanonized if they're combined with the expanded universe as a collective story, honouring the past? They don't have to be. And he goes on, blah, 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 blah. Lastly, I don't buy this supposed civil war with Lucasfilm. Certainly there could be personal creative friction between Kennedy, Filoni and Favreau. Of course there is. Filoni and Favreau understand Star Wars. Kennedy doesn't. She's ignorant, uneducated, and she's a feminist. Though I've not seen convincing evidence of that. Has he got sources inside Lucasfilm? I doubt it. And he goes on, this is just another attack to try and attack Kathleen Kennedy and make her out to be the bogeyman. Well, she brought that on herself. No, at the end of the day, I can't see this happening. Fair enough, we're all entitled to an opinion. He can't see it happening. I can see it happening. If Lucasfilm wants and Disney wants to keep losing money, then they're just going on the right track about it. And this bit pisses me off. Lucasfilm will do the same thing they did with the prequels. Ignore the fan backlash. Focus on other areas. Continuing providing good stories. The sequels wasn't a good story. The first one was a rehash of episode 4. The second one was just Johnson screwing up everything. And the last one was just J.J. Abrams just trying to put it all together, and he didn't do a good job of it. In fact, he did an awful job, from what I've heard, to enjoy and make a ton of money. Well, they didn't make much money. The last one barely scraped over $1 billion, and that's gross. But I think they're going to try and force the sequel down our throats, because earlier today when I was in town, I filmed this. I'm here in Warrington's HMV store, and I just noticed this. Star Wars, the complete saga. As you can see, if I can get it into focus. All 9 movies. The correct 6 ones and the Disney trashy trilogy at the end. With a special thank you from Mark Hamill. Looks like Lucasfilm and Disney trying to screw us over again. Bastards. While I'm here, sorry people, there's the Rise of Skywalker in the 4K section. Last week it was at number 2 position, but it's rapidly dropping, and rightly so. This is just a shoe-in for this video that I'll put in the middle of it, so bye bye. As you just seen in the film that I did this morning in HMV in Warrington, they're trying to force the sequels down our throats by tying them in with the original trilogy and the prequels. But for me, they ain't gonna work. I've got the episode 1 to 6, and Rogue One, and to me that is the Skywalker saga. They said 6 is where it ends, 7 is just a remake of 4, 3 was just a complete botch job by Rian Johnson, and the last one was just a patch up, make do and mend, hopefully it works, by J.J. Abrams. Anyway, I also found this, article from a site called Inside the Magic, dated July 6, 2020, by a guy called Nathaniel Elker. And Disney rumoured to reset Star Wars trilogy. It eventually just goes over the other one. Star Wars sequel trilogy is both loved and loathed by the fandom. No, it's loved by the fandom, we just loathe the sequels. With most agreeing it's a pretty good one that aged poorly. No, it's a good one that's aged well, otherwise it wouldn't have lasted 40 years. One that is both most loved and loathed film ever. No, that's the last three ones, especially the episode 9. Followed by a total mess of a final, we've got that right. Well, all that may change if a rumour is to believe, as the Star Wars sequel trilogy is reported to be erased from canon. Hopefully it is. There's Mary Sue. She shouldn't have been in the film in the first place. Wasted character. According to then it says Victor Doomcock, an unnamed source, that Lucasfilm claimed Disney is resetting in a trilogy. It's not exactly why Disney Lucasfilm is actually making this radical change. I know why. It's money. Lucasfilm and especially Disney has to start earning money. Most of the money comes from their theme parks, where this coronavirus has shut them all down, so they've got to make money with movies. And the last one barely scraped into $1 billion gross. So if the fans keep voting with the wallets, then they're going to have to do something radical to change it. Not just ignore the fans and then ignore them. No, ignore the fans and insult them. Sorry about that. Other than the YouTuber's opinion that the franchise is all but dead. It's not just his opinion, there's a lot of fans. The vast majority of fans consider it dead until there's a drastic remake and the drastic reorganisation at Lucasfilm, starting with Kathleen Kennedy going. I've also heard that her contract is not going to be renewed, so at least that's a start. And then it goes about what Doomcock says. Doomcock's source states the logical reset will stem from the unlikely source Star Wars Rebels. Well, I didn't see that, so I can't really comment. According to the source, Emperor Palpatine would be pivotal to the reset, as he'll use the Veil of the Force from ancient Sith rituals. I can't see that working either, because Palpatine is dead. Vader threw him down that shaft thing and the Death Star, and he's gone. Even if he survived, the Death Star was vaporized. If they're going to do a reset, they have to do the Timothy Zahn novels. And they have to include Timothy Zahn in a script writing team, because he's the one that knows the story. That is the real sequel trilogy that ends the Star Wars saga with Skywalker. They can do some of that. Princess Leia is dead. She caught a disease or whatever. And Han Solo, he doesn't want to do it. He's dead. He's gone on to parts unknown in space, back to his old smuggling roots. With Chewbacca, Mark Hamill could be back in it, but they can do something. After all, they're supposed to be clever, these people that write scripts. Even though J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson are not exactly Rolls-Royce-minded people. And it goes on. Doomcock's source claims the entire trilogy will be erased through a sort of Star Wars multiverse. As long as it's erased, I don't care what they do. Allowing us to see different timelines where the original Star Wars trilogy played out in a way that Star Wars fans who don't like the Disney film will approve of. Yeah, we want a proper ending to the trilogy. The saga. A proper 7, 8, and 9. Eventually, the rumour states that The Force Awakens would be removed from canon. Good. Isolated on a timeline. This means the Star Wars prequels, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, which set the story up for the original sequel, will be safe, alongside the original trilogy, where the final third of Star Wars will be relegated to Star Wars Legends. The final third of Star Wars saga would be just erased, gone. you have to do the final third of the Star Wars saga again. And it just finishes off. Star Wars Legends is famous, the name given to all former canon material in the Star Wars saga that didn't fit with Disney, Lucasfilm's vision of the Star Wars version. Well, that's true. It should be in the expanded universe. Everything in the expanded universe ties in with the saga, with the original trilogy, and that storyline. It honours it, but not the Disneyfied one. Some elements of these stories did remain intact, however, such as Han Solo's son turning to the dark side. Well, that's a load of nonsense, because the actor that played Han Solo's son, no bad things on his part, didn't look anything like a son that Han Solo character and Princess Leia would have had. No facial resemblance at all. But anyway, this is the attack on Doomcock. How likely is a Star Wars sequel trilogy to be erased from canon? Extremely unlikely. Another shill. Let's not forget that even the most disappointing entry in the trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, cracked the 1 billion mark, only just scraped in. They kept it in the cinemas until it did pass the $1 billion mark, then they pulled the plug. The Star Wars fandom has become increasingly toxic since it was purchased by Disney. Too right. The way we've been treated by Disney and Lucasfilm, can you blame us? We talk what defines a real Star Wars fan. A real Star Wars fan is somebody who understands Star Wars, something that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't. Detractors of the Disney Star Wars movies often look for a way to consider them non-canon. While this series does have legs, blah blah blah, it doesn't seem to hold much plausibility. Well, that's partly true. Imagine the outcry of Disney now made beloved characters. Rey and Finn. Rey and Finn are not beloved characters. Rey's a Mary Sue. Finn could have been a good character, but they relegated him to the comic relief because he's black, who represent the franchise move towards greater diversity and inclusion. It's supposed to be about entertainment, not diversity and inclusion. It's the entertainment industry. Now maybe look around totally void. Too right. They just wasted those characters. It would be a PR nightmare, maybe on the Twitter sphere, but people that pound on Twitter don't buy movie tickets and wouldn't do so much goodwill with the mainstream viewer. Bullshit. The way that the source deliberately turns to take satisfaction to personally targeting Kathleen Kennedy also makes me think this is bogus. She brought that on herself, with her identity politics and gender politics being shoehorned into where it shouldn't be. If the plan comes to pass, everything that Kathleen Kennedy did as a sequel trilogy will be destroyed, tossed out and declared obsolete. Too right. It was a mistake putting her in charge in the first place. And it finishes off, only time will tell, true, but deleting the entire trilogy to appease a portion of the fan base. No, it's not, it's the vast majority. Probably 50% or above, that's half the people, not hardly a portion. Seems very drastic. Disney may have slipped up a few times. Ha! She slipped up 3 times. Looking at The Rise of Skywalker, but works like The Mandalorian and the New Clone Wars. That's because The Mandalorian and the New Clone Wars, they honour the Star Wars, especially The Mandalorian. They understand the legacy and they work with it. They don't go against it like Kathleen Kennedy's efforts were. Prove that the mouse can make excellent Star Wars content only if it does what the fans want, and that the franchise is very much alive with or without George Lucas. No, George Lucas was the beating heart of Star Wars. Without him there wouldn't be a Star Wars. And it goes on, the old story, reportedly to return the story if he has full control. But anyway, there's a saying that there's no smoke without fire, so I think there's some fire in this, and Doomcock has trod on a few toes and aggravated a lot of people with his video, and that's why they're attacking him. And I think that they're going to have to do something drastic, because the fans are voting with the wallet, and that goes to me. I've got the episode 1 to 6 and Rogue One, and to me that's the Star Wars saga. If they remake it as it should be with Timothy Zahn, then I'll get the box set. But the one I showed you earlier, they can sod off. I'm not paying £45 for that. Anyway, I think this video's gone on long enough, so you know the routine. Like, dislike, thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, subscribe, whatever it is you want to do. It's completely up to you. So until the next Monday, I might take this on if Doomcock does another video replying to these attacks, or if I find some more information. But if not, I might go back onto MGTOW, because there's a few more things I want to talk about. Right, that's it till then. Bye bye.